Hey guys, I'm JC and today we're playing Yeva Nature's Herald. This is a creature heavy deck that looks to take advantage of Yeva given flash and wins the game through either combat damage or multiple combo lines. If you want to build this deck yourself, then make sure to stop by the channel where we have a deck tech as well as other gameplay videos showing how the deck was built as well as how it plays out. We also have a Discord with a channel dedicated specifically to Yeva, so if you'd like to discuss the deck more, make sure to check out the link in the description below. Let's see if our opponents are ready for a mono green deck that operates at instant speed. Alrighty guys, let's see who we're playing today. We have Zedruu the Greathearted, we have Verrak, Warp Sengir, and finally we have Slobad, Iron Goblin. Alright, if we take a look at our opening hand, we really can't keep it. We don't have any ramp and this deck really needs to ramp quickly, especially being such a heavy creature deck, so we'll mulligan. The second hand honestly isn't looking much better. We really want to see that turn 1 mana dork, or at least ramp from somewhere between turn 1 to 2, so we'll mulligan again. Alright, now this one is super risky, but it starts to get a little iffy if we go down to 5. Now we do have a lot of turn 1 ramp and we have 1 land, so as long as the board doesn't get wrathed within the first 2 to 3 turns, I think we should be okay. It's a really risky keep here, but I'm going to give it a go. I'm going to give it a go and let's see how we do. And we'll bottom our Boreal Druid. Verrak starts the game by playing a land for turn, and then they pass the turn. Slobad plays a land, and then they cast a Ghostfire Blade. Equipped creature gets +2/+2, and Ghostblade's equipped ability costs 2 less to activate if it targets a colorless creature. And then they pass the turn. We draw Rishkar's Expertise for turn. Alright, so let's play our turn Timber Serpentine Wood. We'll lose 3 life so it comes into play untapped. And then we'll cast our Elvish Mystic. And that is going to be it for our turn. Zedruu plays a land, but that is going to be it for them. Verrak plays a fetch land for turn. They crack it right away. They put a scrub land into play. And then they cast a Jet Medallion. Black spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. And then they pass the turn. Slobad plays a land. And then they cast a Prophetic Prism. When it ETBs, draw a card and pay 1 tap, add 1 mana of any color. So now when it ETBs, they draw a card. And then they pass it to us. We draw a Wirewood Symbiote for turn. So let's cast our Jiraga Tree Speaker. And we'll also cast our Wirewood Symbiote. And unfortunately, that's going to be it for us. Zedruu plays a fetch land for turn. They crack it right away. They put a Tundra into play. And then they cast a Boros Signet. And then they pass the turn. Verrak starts their turn by casting their commander. It has Flying, Death Touch, and Lifelink, and whenever you activate an ability that isn't a mana ability, if life was paid to activate it, you may pay that much life again. If you do, copy that ability, you may choose new targets for the copy. Now it looks like they play a fetch land for turn and then they crack it right away. That does trigger their commander. So now they're going to be able to put 2 lands into play. The first one they find is a Godless Shrine, but they have it come into play tapped. And the second is a Plains. And then they pass the turn. Slobad plays a land for turn. And then they cast a Fire Diamond. And that is going to be it for their turn. Alright, let's hope for a land here. And we get ourselves a Birds of Paradise, so we're definitely being punished here. So let's start by leveling up our Jiraga Tree Speaker. Then we'll tap our Tree Speaker for 2 green mana. We'll activate our Wirewood Symbiote, returning our Elvish Mystic to our hand. And now we're going to untap our Tree Speaker. And we'll tap that down for 2 green mana, giving us 4 in total. Now we'll cast our Shaman of the Forgotten Ways. And then we'll also recast our Elvish Mystic. And then we're going to pass the turn. But it looks like Zedruu isn't doing anything for their turn. They're just passing it over, leaving up 3 open mana. Verrak plays a land. Next, they cast a Smothering Tithe. Whenever an opponent draws a card, that player may pay 2. If that player doesn't, you create a treasure token. Now they move to combat. Verrak swings towards us. We're going to have to take the damage. That puts us down to 35. And then they pass the turn. On Slobad's draw step, Smothering Tithe triggers. But they don't pay, giving the Verrak player a treasure token. Next, they play a land for turn. And then they cast a Welder Automaton. You can pay 4 and Automaton deals 1 damage to each opponent. Next, they move to equip their Ghostfire Blade to their Automaton. And then they pass the turn. On our draw step, Smothering Tithe triggers. But we won't pay for it. Now this turn, we certainly could cast our Nyx Lotus. And that'll give us access to a really good amount of mana. But I think we might be better actually trying to set up getting down our Yeva as well as our Priest of Titania. So I think we're just going to pass the turn. Now on Zedruu's draw step, Smothering Tithe triggers. And they don't pay. But it looks like they're just passing the turn, so they might have missed a land drop. So now let's move to the Verrak player's turn. They start by casting Ambition's Cost. You draw 3 cards and you lose 3 life. Next they play a land for turn, a Besieger who shelters all, so they'll be able to make sure that one of their instants or sorceries can't be countered if they use mana from that land. Next, it looks like they transmute a Dimir Machinations. It does have a mana value of 3, so they'll be able to tutor up for a card with a mana value of 3. Let's see what they get. And they find themselves a Phyrexian Arena. At the beginning of your upkeep, you draw a card and you lose 1 life. They begin cracking their treasures, and then they cast the Phyrexian Arena. Well, it makes sense why they went for a card draw source there. They're pretty much going to have access to all the mana they need, so they may as well keep their hands full to be able to use that mana. Now they move to combat. Verrak comes towards us once again. We'll take the damage once again. We go down to 33, and then they pass the turn. On Slobad's draw step, Smothering Tithe triggers, but they don't pay. Next they cast their commander, Slobad, Iron Goblin. Tap, sack an artifact, add an amount of red equal to the sacrifice artifact's mana value. Spend this mana only to cast artifact spells or activate abilities of artifacts. Now they move to combat. They decide to pass through combat. Now they move to their end step. We're going to attempt to cast our commander, Yeva. That resolves. Next we'll cast the Priest of Titanium. Now we'll activate our Wirewood Symbiote. We'll untap our Draga Tree Speaker. And we'll bounce our Elvish Mystic back to our hand. And then we'll tap down the Tree Speaker and we'll cast our Birds of Paradise, as well as our Elvish Mystic. And now we move to our turn. On our draw step, Smothering Tithe triggers. We're not going to pay. We also draw a Ram through for turn. Now the funny thing is here, we actually have the ability to activate our Shaman of the Forgotten Ways, tapping it for 11, so each player's life total becomes the number of creatures they control, because we do have 8 power worth of creatures, so that would actually knock out the Zedruu player, knock down the Verrak player to 1 life, which would actually kill them to their Phyrexian Arena, and then we'd only have to deal with the mono red player. And you know what? I think I'm actually going to do it because we just don't ever get a chance to really do this, especially this early in the game. So we'll tap our Priest of Titania for 4, our Draga Tree Speaker, that makes 6, 7, 8, 9, and we use our Wirewood Symbiote to untap our Draga Tree Speaker. We'll bounce our Elvish Mystic. Now let's activate our Shaman of the Forgotten Ways. So that takes out the Zedruu player. Verrak is down to 1 and Slobad is on 2. Now we definitely want to leave our creatures up to be able to block here. So from here I think we're just going to pass the turn. We'll put a stop on the Verrak player's upkeep, just so we can actually use our Wirewood Symbiote to untap one of our creatures and recast some blockers. So on their upkeep, Phyrexian Arena does trigger. We're going to untap our Draga Tree Speaker. We'll bounce our Priest of Titania. Now we'll let Phyrexian Arena resolve. So that takes the Verrak player out. So now we just have to take out 1 player. So let's see if the mono red player has anything for us. They start by casting a Welding Jar, sacrifice Welding Jar to regenerate target artifact. Now they cast a Madcap Experiment. Reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal an artifact card. Put that card onto the battlefield and the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. Madcap Experiment deals damage to you equal to the number of cards revealed this way. Oh, that is a spicy card to be cast in at this moment. They get themselves a Traxos, Scourge of Krug. Trample, it enters the battlefield tapped and doesn't untap during your untap step, and whenever you cast a historic spell, untap Traxos. That does put them down to 1. So at the moment, unless they have anything else, we can just go wide on them. But the Slobad player decides to scoop it up there. Alright guys, that is the game done. Let's go to the review and discuss what happened. Well, that game just happened. Honestly, the Shaman line didn't even occur to me until the turn we did it, because I was just trying to get to our card draw spell as quickly as possible before a board wipe hit and we got really punished. Thankfully, by some miracle, we not only got to keep our board state, but we also achieved the seemingly impossible. Now, while this was an awesome way to win, and I can tick it off my bucket list, I have to say that I don't plan on keeping any one-landers in the near future. Well, that's it from me today. If you want to see any more games with Yeva or any of the other commanders that appear regularly on the channel, make sure to check out the channel's playlist where you can find all of the games in one neat, tidy place. Until next time, guys.